Hey guys, you are welcome to today's episode. So, in this episode, we are going to be solving a problem that have disturbed or worried a lot of Bubble developers, which is the ability to know which user is currently logged in online and which user is currently not logged in on your Bubble application. This is a problem because it's not an out of the box feature on Bubble, and a lot of developers find it difficult. Sometimes the solution that they implement ends up consuming so much of your Bubble application's workflow unit that it doesn't even make business sense to use it. So I'm having a very simple solution, straightforward solution that doesn't use much of your workflow unit that I think you should follow along the tutorial to see how you can implement this feature so that you can also know how to keep track of which user is online and which user is not online, because there are a lot of applications out there that have some complex features that only apply to user that is currently logged in online and active, and then not those that are logged in online. So follow me along and let's see how we can implement this. So to get started, you need to have a Bubble application or Bubble account, right? And then if you have a Bubble account, you logged into a Bubble account, you need to create a new project if you don't have an existing project where you want to implement this feature. If you have an existing project, this is not a screen you're going to see. But then if you are starting a new project, this is going to be the screen you will first see. Over here is going to be the name of your project, and then the name I'm using here is Beyond No Code. So the name you give your project is what you are also going to see here. So in my case, it is Beyond No Code, but in your case, it will be something else. So excuse me. So to achieve this who is online and who is offline feature, we are going to use two simple tools. First tool is the Bubbles backend, and then the second tool is what we are going to get to know very soon. So it's going to be a very beginner friendly step-by-step tutorial on how to implement this. So forgive me if I'm taking it too slow because I want to make sure that you understand how to implement it. So the first thing you do, of course, like I said, you create your Bubble account, open your existing project or create a new project. And when you get to this, you can go ahead with the assistant if it really matters to you. If it doesn't, you can just skip the assistant. In my case, I'm going to go to the next step because it's just four simple steps. Now, on the second step, you can decide which font you want to use for your application. So in my case, I'm going to go with Poppins. And this is a nice feature to have on Bubble because Bubble gives you some out of the box already existing setups that you can use to get around or to get to know the environment or the builder or the Bubble web app editor and little get yourself familiar if you're a complete beginner. So I'm gonna assume you're a complete beginner and then I'll go through the steps. So here I choose Poppins as my primary font. Then you go to the next step, and this is where you can decide the colors you want to use in your application. I think this color looks okay for me. I'm just going to go to the last step, and then in the last step, if there are plugins that you believe you're going to be using, this is where to go ahead and install them. If there are no plugins that you're going to be using, you just go ahead to get started building. In my case, I know that I am definitely going to be using the API connector, so I'm going to install the API connector. And you can browse more plugins here if you want. But in my case, I know I'm going to use only the API connector, so I'm just going to install API connector. You have the option to install more plugins as your development grows, so there is no problem if you even skip this whole or this entire step. So now that I've installed my API connector, I can just go ahead to get started building. And then when you get started building, you have your application like this with some pre-built pages. One is the index, reset password, 404 page, and then ability to add your reusable element or new pages. Note that you cannot delete these pages, or even though you can replace the index page with a new index page if you like, but you can't delete these four pages, but you can redesign them as much as you want. right? So in my case, I'm going to create a simple login page, and then we're going to have a page that shows you active users, and then a repeating group that shows you those users and who is online. Simple as that. Then we can test it, just to keep it very simple. So the first thing I'm going to do here, this is by style, every developer and how they approach, how they implement things, but this is most of the things you see I do here, it is by my own style. So this is what we call the main frame. What you see here, which says index, this is the main frame for me, the page frame, or the main frame of the page. I don't like putting items on this. The first thing I always do is I take a group, put it in that page, in that container, which is the main frame, and then I will give it a name called main page. Main page. So I know that everything I'm going to add later, it is going to fall under the main page. So now the next thing I'm going to do is I need to update the container layout of my main page. The main page currently, mostly you have it at fixed layout, and the best layout I find working for me is the column layout. Column is where it stacks them one on top of the other. You get to see those things as we design the page. And then row is where it places them next to each other, And then alignment, align to parent, is where you can tell it to go to top, bottom, center, left, right, or middle. So you'll get to know these things as we get to build the application. Now in this case, we are using the column. The default builder width I like to go with is 1200 or 1440. But in this case, I'm going to be using the 1200, and then the height, I'll just leave it at 800. Excuse me. The height, I will leave it at 800 pixels. So now that we have the height set at 800 and the width at 1200, I can go and look for my main page. You can click in it here if you already know where it will be at, or you can just go to the elements tree and look for your main page under the layers. And now I would just give this a center of I'll make sure the width is it just allows it stretch to the entire available screen, and then the height also I'll let it stretch to the entire available screen. And then I'll enable scrolling in the case whereby the screen height is not that much, so it should scroll if there is more content. Then the next thing I will do is this 280 by 280 is okay for me. And then I'm also going with the column. So this is the main page. I'm going with the column alignment, but then I'm going to make its content, its parent container. I'm going to make it the parent container type. I'm going to make it centered so that let me quickly show you this, so that it will be like it is at the center of its parent container. Let me give this a color of blue and give this a color of, let's say, red. How do you know it is at the center? One way to tell is to make this fixed, and you can see now it is at the center of its parent container. So that is not too important for us right now. Another thing you can also center is its child element. So you see when I click on the I make this centered, the child element is brought to the center of the page. So let's reset this back to no background color, or white if you like, but in my case I'm not using color, so I'm going with no background color, and then this blue, I'll make it also centered and center, or in the middle of its parent container. So this is now in the middle. Then we will give it a minimum width of 450, and then a minimum height of 450 pixels. But then none of this will be fixed. But for the width, I will give it a maximum width of 600, and then for the height, I'll make it fit height to your own parent content, and then I'll give it a pattern of 30 by 30 by 30 pixels across all the corner. Then I'll give it a name called login. I'll call it login form. In this case, I'll just call it login form. So now what we'll do is we'll give it a background color, but we give it a background color of white. Why I'm giving this a background color is because I want to give it a shadow effect and a border, and then by giving it a white background color, it makes it stand out so that the shadow doesn't intrude inside the main container but rather outside only. So I'll give it a roundness of 20 and then a border solid of full black but then 5%. It's by choice. Like I say, if you have a UI UX you're working with, just follow what your design says. Then we go with my favorite shadow. So I like to use 16 and then radius of 32, I believe. No. So it's 0 and then 32 and then the black 5%. So this is just okay for me, but I think this is a little bit too much. So I'm going to reduce the intensity of the black to 9E, 9E, 9E. It's just too much. So I think we can reduce it more to let's say 3%. And then let's reduce this also. Okay, this is 3%. And then oh sorry. So this is supposed to be my border. I was looking at the wrong one. So let's go back to full black, 5%, and then our shadow should also be full black, 5%. I think this looks great. So this is our login form. You can go ahead and add in your logos and whatever you have, but in my case I don't have any logo I'm working with, so sorry, we need to take this back to the top. I don't have any logo I'm working with, and then let's just reduce this back to 200. We will get back to the 450, but let's just do 200. So I don't have anything I'm working with, so I'm just going to go with login. I'm just going to go with the text test logged in, and then if you have styles you already have defined, you can go ahead and use your own styles. But in my case, I don't have any styles, so I just choose whatever fits. I think the header 300 fits, so I just go with this one, header 300 fits. So log in, and then I will just copy. So what I did is I Control C, Control V, or on Mac is Command C, Command V. So or you can just do this. You right click and you can copy, and then you can paste in the same container. So I just like to use the shortcuts. So you need to really put up with me when it comes to using all the shortcuts. Now we go back to the body. Let me see if I have a section. So I have small section title. This is a little bit bold, so I'll reduce it to 500, and I think I'll reduce this back to 16. Then we will call this one. We'll say you can log into your existing account. So your existing account using your email address and password below, something like this. And then because this is just an information, I'll try to make it a little bit faded. So let's make it, let's say 50%, so that it stands out from the main title on top. And then we will add our form here. So because I want the form to be I want to have a gap. I could have an overall gap across the entire element of in this container, but that is not what I'm looking for. The look I'm looking for is different. So I'm going to go with margin. So I'm going to add a bottom margin of 40 pixels. Then I can now look for input fields. Inputs. So you go in, if you go into your visual, you have visual elements, you have containers, and then you have input, and then you have reusables. So I just went to the input forms and I look for a input field. Now the first thing I like to do is to handle my layout. I just like to let it have the freedom to stretch throughout the available widths on its parent container. So everything inside here is limited to the parent container that is named login form. So, and then I like to have it a height of 55 because this is a form. Some you can even go 60. Let's just go 60 because this is a login form. Then we can give it a 10 by 10 by 10 by 10 padding across. I think the left and right, let's just go 15 to kind of make it more readable. And then we're going to call this one email. So we have login and sign up. So for login, we call it li, and then sign up, we call it su. So li, that's just my style. So li email address, something like this. Li email address. Sorry, let me fix this quickly. Li email address. So we have our email address, and the type has to be email address here. And then we're gonna call this one, we're gonna say example, or we're gonna say user at example dot extension. So user at example dot extension, to give the user idea of what we really want them to fill in. So now let's just prevent enter. In your case it might not matter, but for my case I just want to prevent enter in this case, so that people have to provide a password before they try to log in. And you can say it doesn't have to be empty. And then I just need to clear this arrows here, because by default this is just going to give it an different style. We are not looking at style at the moment, we just want functionality. And then we go with 16 because this is a login form, by the way. And then the primary text is kind of giving me dark greens. I want to change this dark blues. Sorry, let's go back to primary. Let's go back and see where was it coming from. So we have this thing, this dark blue, and I think it is this one. So I'm gonna go with black, actual black for that. Yep, so we have actual black. So this is our email. Like I told you, I like to copy and paste. And you can see now they are joined together because there is no gap between them. And since I'm going with the margin approach, I have to add another button margin of 10 pixels to create a separation. But I forgot to create my roundness of 10. And the symmetry of this is that since my main container is 20 pixels, I use the half of that so that it kind of blends, So now we need to also address our border. So the main container is 5. Now our input, we can go with 10 so that it kind of creates some sort of separation. But this is not a UI UX class, so I don't apply my UI UX. Just go with what works for you. The most important thing is you understand the function at the end of the day. So now we have li password, right? And then we're gonna change this type to password, and then we're gonna go with star. So I'll just add xxxxxxxxxx to indicate that this is a hidden password. Or yeah, let's go with that xxxxx password. So, or let's just be more creative. So we call it pass WOR and then D password. So we just learn that this is password, something like that. I don't know if this makes, but yeah. Anyways, so we have our login already created, and then the next thing I like to do is I want to duplicate this my description. Then I'll remove the button padding back to 0, and then I will now name this email address. So more like the field label on top. And this is a feature that we've been asking Bubble to release, and I believe Bubble will release it soon. But in the meantime, we don't have it inbuilt, right? For the ability to separate labels on top of the input fields, right? And have a place for that. We don't have that. So I just like to use normal text. So I have this text called email address, and you can see already it's looking great. But I need to separate this from this. So how I do this, first of all, is I reduce the size of the label to, let's say, 14 pixels, and I increase its weight to, let's say, semi-bold, or even sometimes I can go with bold to make it stand out. So let's give it a bottom margin of, let's say, 5 pixels to create some separation. So we have our email address, and then you can use the next, last, previous, and first to move things around. So now you can see I have 2 email addresses, but I want to move one to the bottom so that I can use it as a password. So you can click on next, and you can see now by default it's already at the bottom. So now I can call this password. So even when a user start inputting their data in the input field, the place where that will disappear, they will still know what they are dealing with. So I have my email address and I have my password. Now the next thing I'm going to do is, maybe this could be a little bit of overkill. So I'll just go ahead and add my button. You can keep it simple, So we go into our button here, and then we need to also add that button margin of 10. So this is 10, this is 10, and this has to be the same size with the input. So I'm going with 60 because my input is 60, and then my roundness has to be 10, and we need to give it the freedom to also fill in the available space. And we can go in and give this a label of login now. Example, login now. And then if you like, you can use icon and icon and a text. So if you want to use icon, you can reduce this. Since my my font size is 16, I like to give my icon 2 pixels more than the font size. So I go with 18. This is by preference. And then the gap, you have to arrange it in the layout side. You see the gap is currently 8. I like to bring it a little bit closer, so I go with 5. It's by preference. Then now I can go and choose my icon. You can use material or you can use feathers. And I think I'm going with feathers in this case. I'm just going to look for something that looks like login. In my case, it doesn't have to be perfect. Yep. So you can also use any icon, or if you don't even need an icon at all, you can just do without an icon. So I'm looking for anything that looks like login. I think this is it. So I just go with this one. So this says login. And then the next thing we can do is maybe forgot password and sign up and so on. But this is not the case of this tutorial. So I'm not going to even add forgot password, honestly. I'm just going with the login. And then the next thing I'm going to add is going to be the sign up. Now I will copy and paste. You need to forgive me because I told you I like to copy and paste. Now we're going to call this one li login. So li login btn. Btn stands for button. So this is li, the login button. That's my own styling of naming my things. Now the next thing is we need to also push the next item a little bit down by 10 pixels. Then I will reduce the sign up by about 20%. So let's say we give it a minimum height of 20 pixels. Then we will change this one to sign up. But you can also make it better by saying not having an account, click here to sign up. I think that is a little bit better than what I'm doing. So let's go with the text. Let's copy this text and then paste it here. Let's give it a freedom to fill in the page and then make it centered and then remove the margin. You need to be clinical and consistent on Bubble. And then take it back to medium, give it a 16 pixels, and then let's say not registered already. Let's do something like not registered already. And then we're gonna do sign up here. Right? Something like this. Sign up here. Now you can use rich text to really design the sign up here to kind of make it stand out by making it bold and then probably changing the color. So let's say we go with this blue color and then you have this. So this is a little bit more attractive. Not registered, sign up here. But I think the bold is too much. So let's remove the bold. You can go back to the rich editor and remove the bold, or you can just remove this part of the code that has the p and /p, and that should remove the bold and you are left with the color of the blue. And then yep, I think this is it. This is okay for our login form. Now the next thing we are going to do is we are going to copy this entire login form and then paste it. And now let's go back here and do collapse when hidden and then make it not visible on load and then hide it. Okay, we will come back to that. Just don't put that in your mind. In case you don't know what that is, we will come back to it soon. Now the one we copied is, it will by default say login form copy. Let's delete the copy and then let's go back to the login part and rename it to sign up form. Now in that sign up form, we are going to be updating some things. So example, we will update this sign up icon, right? And now we can say, instead of you can log into your account, we can just write something. You can, excuse me. So we can have something that says you can create an account using a valid email address and a password, or and a strong password. Let's say for free, because this is free application. So for free. Okay. And now you ask for the person's email address and password, but then maybe you want to ask for more, maybe such as first name, last name, profile picture, and whatever you have. So in my case, let's go with first name, probably last name also. So let's go with first name, last name. So let's say I duplicated this. Let's send it back. I think I would like to collect the name before the email address. So let's call this one, instead of li, we will call it su for sign up. So su first name and then the placeholder here we can have John, and then I'll copy this and paste it, and now we're gonna have SU, and then we will name this last name, remove the copy, and then we can name this John Doe, so last name is Doe, but make sure you change your content format type to text, else it will not work. So content format type is now changed to text, and remember we need to create our own labels. So let's go back to the John and name this email address. We name it to first name, and then we will copy and paste this and name it as last name, and then last name, and then move it to the last name side. So we have our first name, last name, email address, and password. But then I like to have the first name and last name together in the same group. So the first thing you need to do, first of all, is you need to group this. So first name, you need to put it in a column container, and then make sure that you remove this padding. So this is 0. Make sure you do this one, and then you group these two also together in a column container and remove this margin. Now you will select these two new groups and then place them in a row container so that they will be side by side, and then we can just give it any name you want. So we're going to call this div names. So this is a division for name, and then we will group it, we give it a row space of 10. Now you see we have simplified our form. We have the first name, the last name, email address, and password. Now the next thing I need to do is I need to the 10 margin that I remove, I need to add it to the main div names so that it pushes the email address downwards. You can do things such as confirm password so that you can have password, confirm password, and etc. But that is not the purpose of this tutorial, so I will not do that. Now the next thing we need to add probably could be our profile picture. So let's use an upload. We have two kind of uploads. We have the normal upload, what is it, file uploader, where you can upload any file. We have picture uploader, and that is the one I'm going to use because I want to upload pictures for profile picture. So under the password, I'm going to call this one SU profile picture. So this is where I'll upload profile picture. Okay, and then so let's center this one, right? And then let's give it let's say 100 by 100 because most pictures are square in size, so 100 by 100. And then let's say let it push its element a little bit down by, let's say, 30 pixels to create some sort of separation between them. And okay, let's just let this, I mean, 100 by 100, it makes it stand out differently, so let's just make it fill in the container to look consistent with what we have. In the row, remember we are using 10, the border we are using 10 pixels, and then 10 for border color. So here we have, it says click to upload an image. So let's change this one to click to upload a profile picture. So let's say click to upload a profile picture to be more consistent. Okay, so we have our SUs. Now we need to go and change our LI password to SU password so that I can quickly find it in my workflow and easily. If you want to succeed better, if you want to do better on Bubble, keep your documentation very, very clean. It's going to help you in managing big applications without any headache, and any other developer that comes to manage any application you build would thank you and say God should bless you because you have made their work really easy. So now, instead of login now, we're going to change this one to sign up now, so that the user knows that they are to sign up or create an account. And probably we should change the icon to make it look different. So let's look for a different icon that can fit a sign up feature. So I think this will do it because it looks like a user getting added up. So let's go with this one, sign up now. And now we're going to change the not registered already into already registered already, So if the user is already registered, we want to change the sign up to log in here. So there you go. We have login here, sign up. So we will need to rename this text. So let's call this one login trigger, something like this. And then we are done with the sign up UI. Let's go back to the login UI and now call the login UI. Let's go back to this and make it collapse as well, like I told you I was going to do. And then let's go back to our login UI and call this one sign up trigger. So the first one was login trigger and this one is sign up trigger. So we're going to call this one sign up trigger. Now, how do you display these two? How you display them is, there are a lot of ways. You can trigger it from state, you can trigger it from workflows, you can trigger it using conditions and etc. But in my case, I'm going to trigger it using condition and workflow. So first of all, I'm going to create my conditional. So in my conditional, I clicked on add conditional and then I'll search for URL and I'll look for get data from URL. And then we're gonna use P for page. And now we're gonna do when P is login, this should be visible. So whenever we have P is cost to login, it should be visible. And then for this one, for the sign up, I will just copy the logins on and paste it here and change it from login to sign up. So whenever P is sign up or whenever the page is sign up, now this one should be visible. Now, I told you I was going to use a combination of conditional and workflow. Now in my workflow, I need to create how do we pass the p value to the URL so that our conditional can look for it. How you do that is you use on page load. This is important and you will get to know why this is important in the future, why you need to use URL in some cases. You will get to know that. That is not the goal of this video, right? So now on page load, I'll add a condition that checks, or I can just paste what I copied. There are a lot of ways you can be fast, right? So you can just paste what you copy if possible, or I can just go and search for URL and I will use P. So I'm looking for P. When the page loads, I want it to look for P in the URL. And whenever there is no P or the value of P is empty in the URL, what I want to happen is I want to navigate and pass the value of P. So you go to click here to add an action and you have an account in navigation. You go to navigation and select go to page. When you click on go to page, you have something like this and you can choose a destination page. In my case, it is the index page, or you can use the current page. But in my case, is the index page. That just makes more sense for me. But if you want, you can use current page of where this is triggered. So I'm just going to go with index page. Then if you want to pass any data, you do that, but I'm not passing any data, so I'm not going to be doing that. And I'm not doing any of this. I'm just passing current parameter. If you're passing current parameter, you can do it. And this is important when you are running marketing ads from somewhere and you're passing some parameters and etc. You can just do it. In our case, we are not doing that, so we're just going to add more parameters. And the parameter we are interested in right now is the P. And you need to decide between login and sign up, which one do you want your users to see first? So in my case, I want people to see the login first. So this is what will happen. Now, since we have done this, let's preview our application to see how it is looking. So a quick recap. By default, our login and sign up form are not visible. How did we know that they are not visible? It's because in the layout page, I have the element is visible on load unchecked, and then the same thing for the sign up element is visible on load is also unchecked. So if I preview this should not be visible, but because of this workflow, it would be visible. So I'm going to disable this workflow and then we will preview it to see if it will show or if it would not show. So let's go ahead and preview. What I do like to do is whenever it previews, it will preview with a debugger. I like to go into the URL and remove the debug mode so that I have a full experience of how users will see my application on the front end or on the live version. So I just remove the debug mode and then you can see I have a blank page, there is nothing showing. But then if I go back to my workflow and enable this workflow, it should be able to pass the value of P, which in turn would allow my conditionals to fire up and find the value of P and decide whether to show the sign up or the login. So let's go ahead and refresh our page. And you can see, because the workflow is working, the value of P has been passed, and you can see now we have login showing. Now, what if we change this value of P to sign up? Should this login still show? No, the login should not show. When I refresh this page now, we should rather see the sign up. So let's see, sign up is P. Okay, so remember we said only when the URL is empty. And you can now see that it is still showing me login. That is because in my URL, P is not empty. P is equals to login. So if I want to see a real fresh experience, I need to clear the value of P from my URL, and it should take me to sign up now straight up, right? Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this workflow, and then I'm going to enable these two triggers, which is the login trigger and the sign up trigger, which is this one. This is the first thing I like to do. So if you click on the sign up trigger, copy this workflow which says sign up, and then leave it like that because this is supposed to trigger the sign up page. Now go ahead and hide this one again and view this one. You use the eye icon like I use here, and then you click on add workflow. You select the element first of all, right? So this is our element, which is a login trigger, and you click on the add workflow. When you click on the add workflow, you just paste this and change this to log in. What will happen is that when you go back to your preview and refresh this page, now our triggers will be able to switch between login or sign up. So if I go in and click on this, it triggers the login. If I click on this, it triggers the sign up. And we do this using the URL parameters. So this is why this is really handy. But there are a lot of ways you can achieve the same thing. One way could be, like I told you can use condition, you can use state, you can use workflows, you can use parameters, you can use a whole lot of ways to achieve this. This is the versatility Bubble gives us. So don't say Nocode and Beyond said it's supposed to be done this way. This is the only way. There are a lot of ways to do it, but this is just my way in this case scenario. Okay, so now we're done with this. Let's quickly go and create our sign up form. How do we create it? So to create this, first somebody will say, let's go and design the user data type. That's nice. Or somebody just go and create the workflow. Through the workflow, you can create the user data type. But I don't like to do that. So let's just go back to our users type. By default, our users type already have email and the password is already there, but we can see it. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and add my first name. Type is text, and then when you find time, take your time and understand the types. The types are dynamic. These types are dynamic. The list will grow as you add more things. So I'll have my last name. I already have email address. I'll have my profile picture. Profile picture is an image, but an image is a file. So you cannot find any type on Bubble called image. You can only find, oh, we actually have image now. So file or image, I'll go with image since it's available now. So if you use file, it will also work. It will also work. So I think I'll go with image. So first name, last name, profile picture. If you want a situation where somebody didn't upload a profile picture, but you want to have a default avatar profile picture, you use the upload to upload a default profile picture. But I don't think I have any default, so I'll just leave it as this. Okay, and let's do something. Let's do full name also. So full name, and then we have texts, and this should be good to go. Now the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna set up this one. So this is supposed to be su sign up btn, not login, because this is the sign up page. And you click on the add workflow. On the add workflow, you just go to accounts. We're keeping it very simple. So you go to account, go to sign up, and then you click on off is add this one, add fields, which will show you all the other fields. And you can see that by default we have email and password. We have the require password confirmation, which I said if you want to do password confirmation, you need to add another field. We are not doing that here. And if you want to send an email confirmation also, you can use this. We are not doing this here. So let's go and look for our SU email address value. So you see how easy for me to find my fields because of the SU and LI. And then let's look for our SU password. Now we have our SU password. We add the value. You get it. And then now, because I didn't do any of this, I'll just pass it. And now we can look for our SU first name. So we have our SU first name value. And then for the full name, we are using our SU first name value. And then you click outside of this. You click right outside of this, add a space, and then insert dynamic data and look for SU last name value because this is a full name. And then we have SU last name for the last name field, and then for the profile picture, did we name that SU profile picture value? There you go. And this has created an account for us. What will happen next is when this is created, we would like the user to be redirected to a page, but we haven't created any page. So let's create a page called dashboard. So we will call this page dashboard. If you have a page you want to clone, this is where you do it, but we don't have anything, so just go and create dashboard page. Now when this page is created, we can do designs here, but we are not there yet. So let's go back to our workflow. This is the sign up. You can do folders to keep yourself organized, but this is a small application, so I'm just not gonna do that. Now after the user is created, what I want to do is navigate them to my dashboard. So navigate to dashboard. Only you can add this, not really important. I can say only one current user is logged in, but it's not really important in this case because if the sign up didn't work, the next step will not work. That is mostly how it will work. It starts from left to right. Now, let's go back to our login form and then set up our login for existing users. Click on add workflow and then you go to account. So by default, whenever you go to workflow and you add a workflow, you have only 9 groups. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 groups. You have the account, navigation, data things, email, payment, analytics, element actions, plugins, and custom event. Whatever you can do with Bubble is going to be within these 9 groups. So you need to not to memorize these 9 groups off head, but you need to get to understand where things fall as you get to develop and build your career on Bubble and you build your experience on Bubble. You get to know that okay, this plugin falls under plugins, or this function falls under custom event. Custom event are always like this though, or this falls under element actions and etc. So in our case, we want to do account related things. So we want to sign up, or you want to log in, or you want to sign up on social media, or you want to log out, or you want to make changes to user. Any account related thing, this is usually where you're going to find it. So you want to do login right now. So we are going for li email address value and then li password value. So if you want a user to be logged in, you can say yes. If you don't want, you can say no. So I'll just yes. And now, after the person is logged in, what we want to do is we want to navigate them to the password page. So sorry, to the dashboard page. And this is it. We have quickly created our login page into details, and now we can go ahead and design our dashboard page. What do we do first? What we do first, we change our container layout to column like I told you. If you follow my tutorials, you will get to understand my way of building on Bubble. Builder 1002, minimum 800. That's how we do it. That's how we do it here. And now the group, also we go with this and we call it main page. And we let it stretch, we let it, and then if it is scrollable, we allow it to scroll as well. But in this case, we will give it a top of 50, 50, 50, 50. Doesn't matter really. We are not looking for any aesthetic look right now. We just want to show the data. And now I will add my H1 or header one here. I will call it users. I'll call it registered users. So yes, we have this registered users. I don't want to overkill this, so I'll just add a space or gap of 30. Okay, so now the next thing is to add my repeating group or a table. I really love the table. It's really simple, so I'm going to go with the table. And then I'm going to call this one users table. I'll allow it to go all the way, and yeah, I'll just go with 50 minimum. And then what I do with my table is this column. This is my header, the header of the table. The reason why I like the table is that you have your header and your rows, right? But with repeating group, I have to manually design the header using. Sometimes it can go wrong. So let's go with this. Now we have this, and then what we're gonna do with this is first of all, the 0 is in the infinity one that says infinity is for the data. So the 0 1 in the A row or the A column, and then let's add a group inside it, and then our group. So everything here by default I think is 44 pixels. Okay, 43 pixels. I got this one wrong. So I like to reduce it back to 40 and I make it fit to its own content, and then just leave this one as it is. And then you can just name these ones. So I'll call this one full name. So let's call this one full name box. I'll give it a top of 10 by 10 by 15 by 15, right? And then we add a text in it. We will call this text full name. And then let's go back here and check everything is centered. And this is centered as well. That is correct. And let this one stretch. Full name. And because this is a title, I'll make it 600. Sorry, this is a header. And then the background, we will give it a gradient kind of look. So let's go with 5. And there you go. So this is our background. And then the next thing I'll do is the entire table, I'll give it a type content of user. And then I will just make a data search. So you go to do a search for user and just leave it like this, because right now we're just searching for all the users on the platform. And then now let's go back to our border. We give it a border of, let's go with 10. And then remember our border, we're using full black 5%. So there you go. You have the full black 5%. And because, okay, let me just copy this one first and paste it to the next page. And because this is my first element, I'll use the find each border independently. And this is my left. So I'll go for the top left and I'll give it 10. So now the top left, you might not even be able to see this, but I'm just somebody likes to pay too close attention to details. So this will show my full name. Let's increase this to 50. So this will show the full name of the person and then their profile picture. Then in here we will show the email address. So we'll go here and we'll call this one email address. And then in the last section, we will call this one online status. So this is where we track the online status of the user. And now let's reduce this minimum. So let's give it a maximum width of, let's say, 150. So that, but that one it's not really strong. The data in this one is not really that big. So online status, and let's excuse me, let's make it centered. And then now we can copy and paste. I don't need this one yet. So let's make this one 0. And I don't really even need it because the background is going to be transparent. So let's remove this. Copy and paste. Let's just do this. Okay. Now this one, we will need to remove this so that it shows all the data by default. And the minimum height is 77. We're going to take it back to 50 to match the data in it. And then these ones, because they are bold, I'm going to take them back to, let's say, medium, or let's say regular, to make them fit in. And then what I will do is each of the container, you need to make it look for its parent group data. So you just go to data source, parent group user, and to give you an option to fit it as a user type. So if I go to current user, it will give you this pop-up. You click on it, it will fix itself. And the same thing here, current user, and it will fix itself. So this would be I'll just go with the current users. So parent group users full name. If you don't have a full name field, you can go with first name, last name. And the placeholder, if you like, you can also leave it, but to keep your work clean, just go ahead and put it John Doe. And then this is supposed to be 400 regular. It is supposed to be the parent group user's email address. So we have the parent group user email address, and then online status is where we're going to show whether the person is online or is not online. So let's go with this. I like to use an emoji. So let's go to green emoji, green circle emoji. So I have this emoji that I used to just show online or not online. So I just copy this and I'll go back to my my Bubble editor and I'll paste this. So you have this. So what I do is that I'll go back to my user data type and I'll create a new field called, I'll use this online with a question mark. So this asks me, is the user online? And I'll make it a yes or no. So what I'll do is that I'll go back to conditional and I'll say if the parent group's users online is yes, it means that the user is online, so it should show green. But then if the user is not online, it should show red. So I'll go back here and I'll look for red circle. So let's go to red circle. And this is a red circle that indicates the person is not online. Now I can go and paste it here, and then you can remove this one so that it doesn't flicker from online offline. So just leave it empty and this will handle the rest. So online and offline is handled from here. So we have our name, and now the next thing I need to add is an image so that I can show the profile picture. So you can see that the image is coming right under the text. That is because this is a column, right? So need to change it back to row, and then I need to add a separation between the image and the text. So I would go with the image of, let's say, 35 pixels by 35 pixels, and I need to make it centered, but it needs to come first, and then this also need to be centered. So let's go and design our image. So the source of the image is going to be the parent group users profile picture, and then we need to give it a sort of rounding just to style it, and let's give it a traditional border of 5% black. And there you go, we have our image, we have our name, we have our email address. But I feel like the name needs to be a little bit bolder than the email address. So let's just go this. So there you go, we will have all our users listed in here by default. If you want to have another action such as maybe blocking user, deleting user, removing user, and logging out user, etc., that's you can all add in here. You can add another column here and you can add more. But that is not what we are after here today. So now that we have all of this, let's go and do some adjustment. Now in the online, we're going to give it a default of yes, a default of no. And then we can go into my live version and create, let's say we create 2 or 3 accounts. And then uh, because I want to create more accounts, I need to add an option to log out. So let me quickly add a button that says log out. So I'll just add a button here and I'll group it to the header and make it row. And then I will let this header, first of all, let's call this one dummy header because it's not really an important header. So let's just call it dummy header. Let's give it a row and then 20 by 20. And let's allow this to push it all the way. We're going to call this one logout. So log out, right? So that whenever I click on it, you add an event. Like I told you, account related issues, you find them in, excuse me, you find them under the account. So I've done this now. Let's go in and create some account and then we can see how this plays out. So the first account you're going to do, of course, is going to be John Doe. The email address, I use my email address. So I'm going to put my email address. So we go to Ishak Bangis, but let's say plus test1 at gmail.com. And then the password, you can put any strong and powerful password that you can think of. I don't have any picture I can use. I don't know. Let me just look for any picture randomly in my account that I can just put. Okay, so we have this IBG Studio picture. Now I can just go in and sign up. And then you can now see the never on this side. So you can see now we are signed up, but it doesn't look like my picture is loading. It looks like I signed up before the picture finished loading. Let's go to our database and check that. Now in our database, we can switch from the data type to our app data, and you can indeed see that our profile picture is empty. So how do you prevent that? How do you prevent the profile picture from getting empty? By making sure that the profile picture is uploaded before the user is signed up. And now you can see that it is there. So let's go and fix this issue. Now, how do we do this? We go back to the index page and look for our sign up workflow. So let's look for our sign up workflow, and then make sure that this is not empty is selected first of all. So this is not empty is selected. If you want to limit the file size upload also, you can do this. But now that I've selected this is not empty, it will not allow it. This is enough to not allow you to sign up until that image data is processed. Okay, so let's go ahead and log out, and then after I log out, I forgot something. When I log out, I need to be redirected back to the index page. So best way to do this is just go and create a condition that says when the condition is true. So do when condition is true, only when current user is logged out. So let's go into logged out. You can make it anytime the current user is logged out. It should take the user back to the index page. So you go to index page, and that should do it. So let's just refresh this page, and you see that because I'm already logged out, I will be taken back to index page. Now let's go and create some Jonathan. So that's some Jonathan, something, I don't know, it is correct. Anyway, and now we can use test2, so plus test2 at gmail.com, and then we put our very strong password, and now we're going to upload a profile picture that we think or we believe it should finish loading up before before the sign up can happen. So it's loading, there you go, and then we can go to sign up. So we have some Jonathan, but I don't see John Doe, which is the first user we created. So let's go back to our database and see what is happening. So in our database, you can see that we have two users. So there's a problem here. It's either I'm not displaying all the data or there's just a problem. Now let's look into our table. How is our table formatted? Now our table is saying it should be fit to its own content, which is 50 pixels fits to its own content. Best way to do it is just allow it to have the freedom, and then you can scroll. So let's go and try. Let's go and refresh this and see what will happen. So, okay, still showing me one, not functional one. So let's go back to fit to content, and then let's see how many data are we showing. So search for users, and then vertical separators. Okay, so this all looks good, and then we need to just let's make this sticky so that it doesn't scroll, and then set fixed number of rows, fixed number of rows. Okay, let's just go with 3 for now, but that doesn't make sense. It should allow you to see more data. So let's see if I go with 3. I'm still seeing 1. Yep, so that's not a cause. I'm just seeing 1 for some reasons. Let's look into data privacy. I just pray that there's no data privacy, and it looks like there's data privacy. You see, so I don't need data privacy right now. We will look at data privacy later, but for now we don't need it. So because I know where that was happening, I was able to tell that it's coming from data privacy. You can see now I'm seeing other users. The data privacy allows you to control the kind of data people can see. Because I wasn't that user, I wasn't seeing the users' data, but I don't need that for now. So now we are seeing all the users. That's great. Okay, so now we have 2 users, but then we are not seeing whether they're online or offline at all. Let's go back to our data again. App data, and you can see online says no. So we should see the red color, not blank. We should rather see the red color. So let's go and look for that red color. So this is our text, and we say if it is yes, yep, so this is a problem. It should say if it is no, then we make it red. So let's go back in here and see. So you can see they are all not online. One says online, one says offline. Now let's create one more user, then we can now go back to the main topic, which is ability to track who is online and who is not online. So this is just because I'm trying to make this beginner friendly. That is why I started all the way from the sign up and the login. Now let's create a woman. So let's go to Sarah Corn and let's go to my test account. So this is test 3, and then we put in our very strong password and look for a suitable picture for Sarah. Suitable picture for Sarah. I don't seem to have any other picture here, but I don't seem to have a picture for Sarah. Oh, that's weird. I don't seem to have any picture. Yep, I've given up. I don't have any picture. All right, so I'll just go ahead with the same picture I used for the other user. So you see, I tried to sign up, and I tried to sign up without finishing upload. It just marked it red, right? And it didn't work. So I now have to sign up again. In most cases, you need to show a dialog telling the user that, hey, you need to upload a profile picture before sign up can complete, blah blah blah. But that's not why we're here. So now we have 3 users: John Doe, Sam Jonathan, and Sarah Corn. Let's go back to our WebSocket solution to track the user. So like I said at the beginning of this video, the ability to track which user is logged in and which user is not logged in is really complicated on Bubble. You can think it's as easy by seeing, oh, when the user logged in, you can just change the status to yes manually using a workflow. That's nice. But then what happens when they close their accounts? When they close their browser, sorry, without clicking on logout? You want to keep running a workflow to track, maybe to communicate with when they last updated an entry from the data. That is no ideal. It's just going to exhaust your workflow unit. Like I told you, we need a more efficient way to keep track of which user is online and which user is not online. So how do we do this? We do this by using a solution called Ably. There are a lot of WebSocket solution providers. I just find Ably to be more user friendly. So I'm going with Ably in my case. So I believe I already have an Ably account, but if I don't, I'm going to create a new one. So let's go ahead and log into my Ably account and see if it works. Yep, I don't have an Ably account. That's fine. Let's go in and create a new one. So this is my full name from my email address, and this is the email address I use. And let's go in and say Anna, I believe I have an Ably account. So I'm going to try again with a different approach. Let's use a different email address and see what will happen. Yeah, I knew I have an Ably account. So this is my Ably account, and you can see I already have some WebSockets that I use for other applications that I manage. So the first thing you need to do when you go to Ably account is to create an application. If you go to the free where it says free accounts, you have the ability to create an application. In my case, I already have an application, which you can see it has sent some 487 messages in the last 24 hours. What you do is you go to create a new application and you can give it a name of your like. So let's call this one Beyond No Code. And you need to choose the programming language that your builder is using. For our case, our builder is using JavaScript or Node.js. So I'm going with JavaScript, Node.js, the two, because Bubble supports JavaScript and Node.js. Now, doesn't really matter. If you like, you can just select anything you use to be able to write any code. But in my case, I just like to keep it more organized. So JavaScript and Node.js. And now, what type of application are you building? Are you building a notification system where you deliver notification in real time to users, or a live chat, or a multiplayer collaboration? Like the way you see on Figma, people can collaborate in real time. Data broadcast, data sync, or just exploring. You can do a whole lot of things with Ably. But in our case, we are going with just exploring and notifications. And now we go to create application. This will create our application and we can start building integration with Bubble. Okay, now we have our application and we have our API key. It doesn't matter if you see this API key, I'm going to delete this after I finish. So by the time you're watching this video, this is deleted. Forget about all of this. Forget about all of this. we are not going to use any of this thing. So you just need to have your API key copied and saved somewhere. So I'm going to copy this and then I will just save it somewhere. So let's go to Writebox. That's my favorite lazy note editor. So let's go to Writebox and let's keep our API key here. We'll come back to it later. Now we're done with this. The next thing we need to do is, let's go to resources. We don't need any of this. We don't need any of this. So let's go back to our stats. So you have API keys, right? So you can go to API key. This is where you can always find your API key. So like in this case, you can see this is a new API key I created. So let's see, this is created on the 18th December, which is today. This is created on the 18th December today. So this is a root one, and this is the subscriber only. So I want to be sure that I've selected the root API connector. So ended with Neo. Let's go. Yep, so I have the root API connector. This is the one I need because it has access to the channel, metadata, history, presence, and whatever. Everything I need, it has access to it. Now, the next thing I need to do is go into my integrations and see if I need to set up my webhooks. So this is where you can create your incoming webhook setup. And incoming webhook setup is where you tell Ably where to send status update for when a user is online and when a user is offline. Okay, so that is what you do here. And then we have the notification side where you can get track of notifications. So configure a kind of notification that you want to push. Okay, so let's see what are the options we have for notification push. So set up push notifications. Let's see if we can find presence. Service account JSON. Okay, Firebase. We are not using Firebase. Okay, let's see. We are not using any of this, so you don't even need to set up any push notification for now because we are not building an application. When you are building an application, that is when this comes in handy. So we don't need this one. We don't need this. So I believe we don't even need. Let's see, channel subscription. Yep, I believe we don't need any of this. So I don't know. Sometimes these guys, they just add more things and things change, So I just wanted to be sure of what I'm seeing. Okay, my settings, everything is enabled. The rules, so sometimes you need to configure these rules, and then in my case, I need to add a new rule, and I'll call it presence. And then let's see, what do we have? We have presence here. Presence. We don't even have presence. I'm just gonna leave this one. Anyway, so let's go ahead and add our code. So since I already have an application here, I told you if I already have an application, I am going to copy the code for that application so that this video doesn't have to be long. So I will link this code. It's an already existing code I've already written. I will link this code to the description below so that you can just copy this code and modify it for your use. So yep, this is the same application for tracking online, and you can see we have integration where we send the webhook triggers for when a user is online and when a user is offline. We haven't got into this part yet. The one thing I want to check is my notifications here, and you can see I don't have any notification set up. And then in the settings, I want to see if I've created any presence, and you can see that yeah, I have a rule. So I have the user presence, and then this is no, yes, no, yes. So this is the thing I wasn't sure about. So I need to create a user presence and then be able to track it. It doesn't really make sense to me though, but let's just go ahead and do that. Okay, so channel rule. Let's go and handle our beyond Nocode settings and create a presence call. So let's go and create presence, yes, and then the persist should be yes. So identifier should be yes, and the message interactions also should be yes. Let's enable this one as well, and then persist as well. Like I said, it doesn't really matter honestly, but let's just go with this. Anyways, so let's go back to our code, our bubble side. So now on the bubble side, what mostly people like to do is they created a reusable element. What I like to do is I create a reusable element and I name it WebSocket. Okay, so this is my reusable element called WebSocket, and I know that this is a WebSocket with Ably, and I use it to track a user that is online. The first thing we need to do is we need to add a Bubble to JavaScript element, and we don't have that now. How do I know that we don't have it? Because we don't have that plugin installed. That feature is available in a plugin called Toolbox. So you go and search for Tools, Toolbox, and install it, and it gives you that option called JavaScript to Bubble. Now, in my element, I'll find something called JavaScript to Bubble, and I'll copy and paste. I'll add that, and I'll call this one online handler. And what this does is it handles whoever is online, and then it triggers an event, online handler, and then uh, sorry, it has to be a text. So whoever is online, it will be triggered. Okay, this is online, or this is not online, and it will update our database, or to update our data. Now the next thing we need to do, I will come back to the design of this, but for now I just want to have the data. Sorry, layout column, that's correct. We add an element, HTML element, and this is where we paste the code, right? So let's see how quickly I have my code here in a different machine, but let's see, it's a whole lot. Let's see how quickly I can move this code. Okay, so this is the code, and then we have a couple of things to update. So the first thing I need to update is my endpoint, where the statuses should be sent. So let's see, we're looking for Ably token endpoints. So let's go to Ably token endpoint, and this is the endpoint. So we're going to look for this. I'm going to call it endpoint here, backend, and then that is the only thing we need to update. And then we need to pass the unique ID, current user's unique ID. So client ID is the user ID. Okay, so we have our code here, and what the code does is it loads a script from Ably, because this is like an SDK base, and then it creates a state. It first checks that the bubble is fully loaded, and it checks the version we're interacting with. Not really important in our use case, but if let's say you want to handle version live or version test or etc. So let's say we have this. So version match is version dash, and then if it is not, version match is live, right? And then and then yeah, so this is it, but we will not be using this part. And then we're going to create a backend endpoint that is basically supposed to be generating the access token for us, which means we are going to add some API connectors. That's why I installed the API connector. Then this fetches token automatically anytime a token expire, because token have expiring time. And then just create a real-time connection with Ably, and there you go. And then we have our bubble handle online, or online handler. So we're going to change this one from bubble fn online to bubble online handler. So let's change this one. You know what, let's just change it to online to be more consistent. So now we go back to our, let's change it to online. All right, we go back to our bubble application and just paste this code in the HTML element here. Before you do anything, you have to work on one thing, which is the API connector side that is responsible for getting you the access tokens. But because, like I said, I already have this here, so we are going to save ourselves some time and just move it to this new application, um, and that should work. This is the new application. Let's see, bubble. If I encode this, right? If I go in and encode this, let's go to encode. So if I go in and encode this, right, I will get this. If I encode it, I will get this. And then if I copy this right now, and now on the bubble side, on the Bubble side, I paste it here as my authorization. Okay, then we add the app ID that we have here. So the app ID is the first part of this key. Exactly the first part of this key. We add it here. I just don't know why we have this dash dash. I don't know if that caused a problem. I have a feeling about that, but I might be wrong. And regenerate the time. In theory, this is saying that it should work. Let's try again. Yep, so we have got this working. Now I had to duplicate this, so I'm just going to delete the old one since I'm not using it anymore. And I'll go with the WebSocket. So we have the Ably time and then the get access token. So so we have the function that generates a token for us and the token and a function that generates the Ably time. Now that we have done this part, the next thing you would like to do is to set up the HTML so that you can pass the current user's ID and then but most importantly, the function that generates the access token for you. So let's first of all pass the first of all work on the function that generate the access token. Then we can look into how we can return that data and pass it to the Bubble side. So let's first of all do that. So to do that, you need to go to your app settings. If you don't already have a backend enabled for your application, you need to go to the app settings and enable backend. If you already have API enabled, that's okay. But I don't have any API enabled, so I need to go in and create my backend and data. Data not too important, so let's just disable the data and allow the backend. Now that I allow the backend, I can see I have backend workflows. The first thing I want to do is to create a backend workflow, and I'll call it let me just be specific, call it Ably token. And then we will pass a client ID. So we use a post manual, and then we will pass a client ID to it as a text. And then when we have this, the first thing we're going to do is we will look for WebSocket Ably time. After we have the Ably time, we're going to look for the WebSocket access generate token, and we need to pass the client ID that we received. So this is the client ID, and then the timestamp will be the result of from step 1. So the result of step 1 that we had is the timestamp. In the nonce, like I said, it doesn't really matter. So you can just pass the client ID again. In my case, yeah. So in my case, I am passing the client ID again. Then then we need to set the expiring time and then make changes. I don't even need that one. I don't need that. So for now, I just need to return the what do you call it, the data. So I really hate to type all of these things because it's going to make my video long. So I'm just going to copy this code and add it automatically to save us some time. So I'm just copying and adding the code so that it can save us some time. Okay, so now that I've added this code, I need to fix my data. So the token is going to be the result of a result from step 2. The key name is going to be result from 2 as well. The issued is going to be result from step 2, and then the expires is going to be result of from 2 as well, step 2 as well. And then the client ID is also going to be result of step 2. So I need to return this. Anytime this is called, I need to return this. Now that we have this sorted out, we need to find a way that we will call this function to trigger a token, to fetch a token for us. And then when the token is fetched, it's hold on, I'm trying to pull out documentation. When the token is fetched, it will it will be used to create a handshake between our Bubble side and Ably to know that this person is online, and it will keep syncing in real time. So So construct the token. So we're gonna call that backend function from here automatically. So this backend function, this one, how do I know the link? So one easy way to do is you go to manual and you go to detect data, and then you click on this. Okay, and then now that I copied that link, I'll go back to my WebSockets HTML, and now where I said endpoint, that's a place I've written in capital letters, endpoint here. I need to paste this link I copied. So it's going to be my I need to remove the initialize. When you go to live, you need to change this version stuffs. But if I want to take advantage of my version control at the top here, what I can do is that instead of version dash test, I can just have the bubble.io, and then I can have version. So I can I pass a dynamic data for the version since I'm already handling version in my code. So let's go with this version. Yep, that's it in the documentation. So this should actually handle passing the version that it should handle. Either that current version or the version is empty, it's a live version. So we call this one anytime and then it passes the data for us. Um uh and now we have another place where we pass the client ID. So let's find another place that I've written in capital client ID. So here you go. We have the user ID here, and then so we have the user ID here, which is going to be the current user's unique ID, and I think we are good to go over here. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I need to handle the sizes. So I'm going to go with 1 pixels by 1 pixel fixed, and then the bubble to JS also I'm going to go with 1 pixel by 1 pixels, and this one as well I'm going to go with 1 pixel by 1 pixel, and then I will remove the background color at all because I'm going to add it in my page. Now we go back to the dashboard, and now if I go under my elementary, I'll be able to find this WebSocket, and this is it. I've added it in my page, but I want to control the height of it. I'll just leave it at 1 pixel right now, but it is there. Anytime this loads, it will be able to create a connection with Ably. But we are not done. Remember, we have in my HTML code, remember we have somewhere we are interacting with Bubble.Fn. So let's look for the Bubble.Fn function online. So we're looking for Bubble.Fn function online. Here you go. It says yes. Bubble.Fn function online says yes. So what we're going to do here is that we will add an element to JavaScript to Bubble online. Why do I even have WebSockets? It's supposed to be online. Yeah, I just want online. And then we need to say only when the value is yes. So we need to say when this value is yes. Whenever the value is yes, what should happen is that we need to make changes to the current user who is logged in. So make changes to the current user, and now online should be yes. Anytime this says yes, it means that the person is currently online. And how about handling when the user is disconnected or offline? And that is where we need to create another backend workflow API where we let Ably pass or communicate with Bubble that this person is not anymore logged in or online. So let's call this one Ably. Let's call this one Ably endpoint. Let's say Ably endpoint. Example, Ably endpoint. There is one way we can get this done easily, which is by using a detect data. So this is my link I copied, and then I can go back to Ably. You go to integrations, okay, integrations, and then in the integrations you go to new rule. Nope, webhook, redesign webhook. No, this is incoming webhook. We want to send an outgoing webhook. So let's go to new rule, webhook, and what do we have? None of this. I just want to set a webhook. Yep. You need to pass the URL. But then in our case, what was this? What is this? Nope, doesn't look like it. Let's go back to Bubble. This is one I want to copy. Let's try again. Yeah, so initialize. This is important, initialize. And then the headers, nothing. Send a request, no headers. It's supposed to be presence, no filter. It's supposed to be sent as a JSON. Create. If you want to create for the live version also, like I told you, you can create down for live version, but without the version dash test, but rather version dash live or without the version dash at all. All right, so now we have this. What you need to do is you need to leave this in a detection mode where it keep listening to incoming data. Then we go back to our bubble here and refresh. Hopefully what should happen is it should refresh and then communicate with Ably, and then when you disconnect it should know that you've disconnected. But then if this has really worked, I should have already seen that somebody is online. So let's go back to our console log, and you can see it says posts unauthorized. Okay, that's a problem with our webhook, with one of our backends. So let's go back to this, and then let's see. Yep, so all of this should allow, and then let's see what about this. It should ignore, but even this is even wrong. I shouldn't add a space. Ably token. I shouldn't add a space in the naming. So let's go back here. Ably token, and then let's go back to the WebSocket again, and then HTML, and then let's rename this to Ably token. Okay, so let's try again. Sorry, so let's go back to our backend and listen for the event again, which is the Ably endpoint detect, and now we can restart this. It is saying that the application does not. Oh, sorry. So yeah, it says please upgrade your Bubble subscription for your API code to work. So sadly enough, Bubble is just charging money right now for a backend function to work, sadly. So I just went ahead to upgrade to the. Does it even work? Did it even work? The last payment failed during the payment. Interesting. So this is a problem. This is a problem. So you need to upgrade to the at least trial version of Bubble to be able to interact with the backend workflows. So how do I handle this issue? This issue will not be handled because I need to get that token, and Ably needs to communicate with your application to know whether you are online or you are not online. There is no one way around this thing. So um this is crazy. What we are going to do is that we are going to pause this video, this episode here because it's getting too long, and I'm going to be resolving my billing issue with Bubble. Then we create a part 2. We have already solved the problem, right? You can, with what we have discussed, you should already be able to interact online, offline, and whatever you have. But we have one part left, which is the webhook part, where we pass when somebody is not online. Let me quickly show you this in case you are not able to join the part 2. So what happens is that because this doesn't even have the data yet, I wanted to really create a workflow for you. But what happens is you just use a unique ID. So you look for make changes to user. So go to things, make changes to, do a search for user, and then you use a unique ID, and then the payload this is supposed to receive would have had a client ID. Then you make first item, right? And now you can change the online to no, because this is triggered anytime the user is not online. But we will create a part 2 after I resolve my billing issue with Bubble. Then we will see how that data is getting passed, and we will take a look at it from the front end perspective and the back end perspective to test it vigorously, and then probably discuss how you can take this function and put it in the plugin and be able, in the plugin and be able to reuse it across various Bubble applications that you own and that you need to implement this online feature, so that you would not have to recreate this entire process anytime you want to implement this online feature. So if you are interested in seeing how this function works out in the episode 2 and how you can put it in a plugin, so that if you don't even know how to build a Bubble plugin, we will take a look at how to create Bubble plugin using probably ChatGPT or any AI of your choice. I believe then you should watch out for the episode 2 of this tutorial. Just to keep this short, it is already long. Thank you once again for joining me, and if you enjoyed this tutorial, if you believe this is detailed enough, um, leave a like and a comment below. If you want any assistance from me, maybe in some part of my videos I speak fast, or I'm just too fast generally, do let me know in the video. Your feedback is going to be important, so that in the episode 2, I would make sure that I take my time to explain all the processes required to build whatever you want to build with regards to the Ably integrations, WebSocket integration, and Bubble. Have a blessed one.